And so sorry everybody. I had one plan for starting the stream, and then um, it seems that we had some frame issues. So I do apologize for the late start tonight. I did fall asleep, but that's partly just about the really tough week that I've had. I'm at the end of it. We'll be good, but I really needed the sleep, so I took it, and then sorted out dinner and the rest. Okay. So I was talking a little bit about sort of the reason why I was late and such before. I don't think anybody cares for the VOD. I'll just leave it all there. But I do have one thing to clean up on the Twitch side. And we'll be ready to go. I do need a minute to just figure out what we're up to. But my plan is basically, because of that rest, I do, if I can, I want to put the, I do want to do a full stream. And the good news is I think we're kind of at the end of the, the late nights and the things that are going to keep me from being able to do more consistent broadcasts. Maybe it's a little too early for me to say that I'm going to be able to start on time all the time. I think that's still going to have a bit of a challenge, but I think all the stuff that kept me having to do the YouTube videos the day before, all of those other details, those are sort of out of the way. I'm going to have a busy week next week, but it can be a busy week next week with how do I put this? Like, I can keep that busyness very likely contained to a I can keep that busyness contained to like the working hours, as opposed to this week where things sort of they just wound up bleeding into my day-to-day time. I will say, on top of resting, one of the things that did keep me from starting was I started watching The Graduate again. I forget how good the start of that movie is. Like, it's one that starts off really, really strong, and doesn't. I mean, it's great all the way through. It's a wonderful, wonderful film. But it really delivers up front. Like, it's one that I sort of feel like if you start watching, it's quite difficult to put it down. So that is, I am ashamed to admit, one reason why I'm starting a bit later than I was intending. But there we go. Okay, so looks like, if I recall correctly, so we had the Viennese Conundra. Yeah, so if I recall correctly, the Viennese Conundra, Opening the Sky, and the Locksmith's Dream, A Light Through the Keyhole were all intended to be things that I would use to level up my, my skills here. That would be with a mind to committing them to the Tree of Wisdoms. I must apologize. It looks like I smudged my glasses. It's really irritating, so I will be back in just 1 minute while I get my glasses case. Okay, sorry about that. So I think the idea here was Edict's Liminal to get to 8, and then I think I had something that needed to get to 7 before I could commit those two. I'm going to start with that fairly early on. Good Lord. I have a feeling, so on my way home, I had a latte, and I have a feeling I kind of splashed it on my glasses without realizing. This is the exciting content you get to see at the System Chalk channel if you arrive early. I know I'm really rewarding the early arrivals. Okay. That is considerably better. All right, so again, when we take the time to work out these details, I don't just sort of do them to waste time. They do wind up paying sort of dividends when we get to the point of committing them. So looks like, yeah, it was Edict's Liminal at 8 and then Coil and Chasm to 9. So let's say today's focus is going to be Edict's Liminal to 8. And if I recall correctly, that's going to be a challenge. So yeah, so on my IOU list I wrote the Earthside, level Edicts, and prepare the Salam food. So we need 7 for Edict's Liminal. We've got Stolen Secrets, Impulse, Pattern Salt, Secret Threshold, Name Day Riddle, and the Occult Scrap. Okay, so that's not really a challenge. I'm a little curious about the Foresight that I kept, but I can use that to create the Name Day Riddle if it comes down to it. There is a small argument for bringing in someone like Mr. Kill tonight, I think. And the the reasoning behind that, I guess, is like I still have some rooms that I can open. So we've got the Wing Haunted Cave, we've got the Gaping Darkness, Wintry Forbidding, Slithering Fountain. So these would be ones for Denzel or Reverend Timothy. We have the Sealed Vault. We have another Sealed Vault. Yeah, I mean, actually, so the funny thing on this is it would be Mrs. Kill who's slightly more appropriate given the Grail at play here. I don't really feel like I'm going to use much of Mrs. Kill's abilities. Hello, Zerogdree. Good to see you. I'm never sure if anybody's going to come by when I start this late, so it's nice not just to have a viewer, but somebody who kind of comes in with the animated emails. I also sort of wonder how many of these you have, because I'm noticing usually when you put them down, it's more than one creator each time you do that, so you must have a few subs. Anyways, thank you very much for stopping by. It's always nice to see you. Anyways, Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. So I am technically giving up one of my Arab, which I can use to make dishes with, but I think this is I think this is an okay use. Now, regardless of what I wind up using Mrs. Kill for, I can see how. So I guess the Pattern Salt, Secret Threshold, so Pattern Salt and Secret Threshold are all going to be things that I don't, that I can't get through talking with her. And then going to Crowcross Sands and the Moor is sort of a standard practice on this run, so we'll do that again. Side effect of insomnia and doing all the lurking. Listen, if it works, it works. Well, I feel bad about the insomnia. I spent the first little bit apologizing for the really inconsistent start times and feeling wiped. I took a bit of a nap and then actually watched a bit of The Graduate, which, again, wonderful movie. But I did realize I should start streaming. But yeah, I'm happy to have you, and I am noticing even more. So I think two of those, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, 3. Okay, cool. I'm starting to recognize these. By the way, I've never looked at the animated emotes in on Twitch before. These look quite like they look like they have a fairly high frame rate, I guess would be the term I'm looking for. Anyways, they look really good. I'm always a little delighted whenever you come in, just to see the actions. Gives me something to think about for the future. Okay, let's try and cure some insomnia with reading and occult mysteries. So the plan here, so with Edict's Liminal, I think I'm going to set aside a Shapt for this one because we would use the knock anyway. Or sorry, we're not using the knock anyway, is what I mean to say. And then we've got some spare metal, so I'm going to take the metal first. We're going to use that to... we'll use that one to get the pattern. And I seem to recall we moved those. Yeah. So onto the Raptures of Forculus. We have got Salt and Secret Threshold. So we can also use the metal with Ava's Desk because of the edge aspect. I'm actually trying to remember if we have Secret Threshold books. We may not. I'll read the Sea Does Not Regret again, although I think we read that last time. And then I am going to take the time to look for the Secret Threshold, just because it would be nice for me to know whether or not I've got that. I know there's the one where they talk about the Wheelocks making Treowyn, or building Treowyn, rather. But if it comes down to it, Secret Thresholds is something that we can make. Oh, yep, here it is. Temptations of Architecture. So both Greens and Collar's Desks will help me here, although of course we're running out of metal at this point. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. You should see some of the ones that go well above 60 FPS. There's a spooky amount of smooth. I have, it's actually so dumb. Like, this game doesn't really work too well. Like, the game is fine, right? I just want to be clear on that. But if you play the game in the early stages, you get a much smoother experience, and then when you unlock the whole house, it's if you look for it, it's noticeable. And like, that's not a knock against the game. You know, I would much prefer this game to exist and have the wonderful writing than it does, than to have the two people who made it focusing on on this kind of optimization. Like, the fact of the matter is that this game is completely fine the way it is. There is no reason to make sure that it's running 144 frames in the end game. But one of the funny things is that I specifically got a higher refresh monitor as opposed to a 4K monitor, because I do actually think the frame rate tends to have a bigger impact. And this even comes from the film. So I remember once upon a time, it used to be that people really did not like people would deliberately have lower frame rates. They'd go for 24 specifically because it looked more like film. And like, people thought video looked weird. And it does. Like, it sort of has this almost hyper real look to it if you're accustomed to a certain style. But like, for video games, because there isn't really that expectation that you get from Hollywood, they really do look better. Honestly, I just think stuff tends to look better at the higher frame rates, even in terms of motion pictures. It's just, you kind of need to get past what your expectations are. There's an older movie. This is around the time when they were still sort of trying to figure out what they were doing with high definition video, or basically films that were captured using non-photochemical processes. So I'm thinking of not the Star Wars movies, but sort of that next generation of things that were really trying to push a very, very high resolution. And there were actually two movies like this. Only one of them, I think, is kind of worth watching, and I think for some people, even this one, the one I'm going to talk about, isn't worth it. But there's a Tom Cruise movie. It's got Jamie Foxx in it as well. But it's called Collateral. And what's unique about that one is they really played to some of the strengths of the camera they were using. It's called I think Grass Valley Thompson Viper Film Stream. I know it definitely Thompson Viper Film Stream, but I think it was Grass Valley was the company that did it. I used to have like a whole bunch of old issues of American Cinematographer, which is the only reason I know this stuff. But instead of so most of the stuff when you watch it captured digitally, they are trying to capture that that cinematic look. They're trying to make it look like film. And what that movie did was it specifically seemed to be trying to create a look specific to that type of film capture. And like some people do not like it at all. Some people do think it looks kind of like cheap video. And I have to assume like today, I wouldn't say it's like equivalent. The Thomson Viper film stream is not going to be equivalent to what you're seeing inside of a phone. But I imagine that probably when you do a technological comparison today, like there are just certain drawbacks to that mode of capture that don't apply today. You can also see other things filmed using that system that that simply look different from it. But I really admire it for doing that. But number one, I actually kind of enjoy watching the movie. It's not like an all-time favorite, and I can sort of see why some people are indifferent to it, but I actually think it's got some neat stuff in it. But yeah, it's I kind of like stuff like that because it does well, it's actually a little bit like this game, right? It allows itself to be different, and that means sometimes you're going to have the rejection from the audience who want more of the same. But I think there's some value in seeing people try new things, try something that may not work out, but maybe isn't obviously bad. So, and again, sort of from that, I don't know if that was the first time that I noticed something like that, but especially once I start thinking about gaming and things like that, it definitely got me reflecting a little bit more on frame rates and in your case here, the spooky amounts of smooth. But now I actually really do want to see what Twitch's capabilities are for those emotes, because I feel like that's something that people might like playing around with. A conversation for another time, though. As soon as I start talking about movies, which obviously I've already done, I find it hard to get off the topic. Not that I might. I mean, if any of you are interested in this stuff, I'm happy to continue to elaborate. But I know that's not necessarily why everybody's here. Okay, so we've got everything we can get for the memories that wouldn't potentially be generated by Mrs. Kill right now. So the only other one that I want before we go too much further is the Earth sign. That's just the replacement for what I had before. I guess I was going to try and make an earthquake name as well. So I think I'll do that as a... I think that's a nice to have right now. So let's go... Oh, that's right. That requires memory. We'll see what the weather brings. There's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. Okay, snow. I should take a minute to see whether or not that opens something up for me. Oh, keep forgetting it's the... This probably won't let me put the foresight in. Yeah. Keep getting this twisted. Okay, name day riddle. Conceive a mothy riddle. Now, because we have the snow... So this is 3 winter, 3 sky. I don't think we have any winter rooms that we can use. If we did, we probably would have brought in Mr. Kill. So it's a little funny to do, but in this case, I think I'm just going to use that with the Disciplines of the Scar. All right, craft an old moment, recall something lost, something scale aspected. So as far as my to-do list is concerned, we're on the path for at least 2 of those items getting done. So we're starting with the Edicts Liminal, we're starting with the Earth Sign. So I suppose now I want to start thinking about the Salon. Now, I also don't recall if I made a decision on any of these rooms. It looks like I did, actually. So, to my slight annoyance, it looks like I didn't actually plan any food for the Salon, but I'm going to do that now. Now, I do apologize because I realize a lot of my content lately has been interacting with the spreadsheet of recipes that I have, and that doesn't, like, I just simply don't have, I'm not showing any of it. But I don't have a good answer in terms of like what else I might do. I don't know if there's a whole lot of value in me just putting that on the screen temporarily while I consult. So I am thinking maybe of a pheasant for the main course. We could do the roast pheasant or the jugged pheasant. We have also done the egg croquettes in the past, but I don't think I'm going to do it this time. I imagine this is the only pheasant I have, though, so it might be nice to order a replacement. Okay, so let's say pheasant. So we also need some kind of winter dish. So roast potatoes, mushroom meringue, walls of yeast, floating island, stuffed pale marrow. Yeah, maybe pale marrow. Also allow maybe roast potatoes. Knock will probably be the big decider on things. Excuse me. Oh, game pie. Or game chips. I know I did game chips last time, but it's a little easier than some of the others here. And game pie is a main course, so that would mean that I would need to change things up with the pheasant. So I think in this case we're going to do game chips again, and that means that I'll do the pale marrow for the winter. Okay. So for scale... Actually, I should also check here. So we've got... well, let's not worry about this quite yet. So a few more scale options. So not cake, mole au jus, roast beef, marinated roast beef, egg croquettes, pickled pilchards, mushroom potato bake, pilchards on toast. Actually, pilchards on toast seems like a good idea. Okay, so I think that covers one of everything. So if I go for winter, so the stuffed pale marrow is either a first course or a main course. The pheasant's a main course. I don't even need to check that. The game chips... Oh, you know what? We don't have a pudding. We also do not yet have forge. So either an apple meringue, a baked pear meringue, or a floating island will do the trick. Kind of like the idea of baked pear meringue. Okay. So that gives me an idea of the dishes that I want to create. So I also have a bit of work ahead of me, though. So we need to order some goodies. I'm going to make a pear meringue. That means I need the... oh, God, what is it for the meringue again? I think it's sugar and milk. Egg and sugar, sorry. And actually, one thing I can do here, so with the Arab, we can make our game chips off the bat. Starting to run out of dripping, so roast potato. No, 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 no. Make game chips, a dish with edge, forge, heart, and knock. Pilchards on toast is also something that I can do, so we can... I did just make the bread, but we can sort that out. Oh, but I think I'll need the knife again. Okay, Pilchards. Bread. Make Pilchards on toast, a dish with heart, moon, nectar, and scale. Okay, so game chips, Pilchards on toast. I will at some point want to make the... Nope, actually we've got the flour now, so... We don't have butter, so I should probably get on that. A little reluctant to use the Arab here. I think I can get away with using the metal, though. Oh yeah, we got lots of flour. We don't necessarily have lots of butter, though, so... Okay. Mixed dough, an ingredient for a higher purpose. We do actually have more pickled mushrooms and pickled pilchards and things like that, but I didn't want to do anything that was prepared with alcohol. I realize the pickling is not going to... I don't think that counts against the alcohol for a deem. Oh yes, and we've got multiple pale marrows, so we'll actually put that... we'll put that in place right away. Okay, so... Pale marrow... So really what it comes down to is we need the stuff to make the meringue, we need the stuff to make the... to make the pheasant, and then everything else is just kind of a nice to have. So let's act accordingly. So I think TRN... I need to talk to TRN. We will have pheasant. Yep, that's it. And I'm not in a particular rush on this, so we'll just let that run down. Mrs. Gill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. I should have been... Oh no, hang on, I'm already making money. Okay, let's chat. Talk to Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. I suppose I also should have been taking the time to read some of these books. I'm going to take a minute to think about which book that I want to read. I mean, I guess I kind of need to make my decision now. So here's what we're going to do. I have, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 memories that I need. 1, 2... Oh, I still need to make the secret threat. No, hang on. I'm already getting the secret threshold. So it's really just the impulse and the stolen secret. So I need 2 elements of the soul set aside for potentially generating those memories that I need on my own. Okay, that's fair enough. The Salon food I can't make right away, so I won't worry about that. So I should go back to my... I should go back to my old goal of leveling up some of the other things. Now, I want to be a little careful because I am getting to the end of winter. But it looks like I was going to try and level up Hill and Hollow and Sky Stories. Hill and Hollow we currently have at 4. I actually need 2 for that. And Sky Stories is... Sky Stories is technically the easier of the 2. So this is actually where I'm going to kick myself slightly for not using the snow. That would have been quite helpful this time around. But let's see what we can do. So if we used Opening the Sky, I guess Watchman's Paradise, or Sights and Sensations. Okay, so if we add the Foss, so yeah, we definitely have what it takes, but I do need to read another book, which is not a hardship. Like, we've got plenty of elements of the soul. So let's go to Caller's Desk. We will take the Whist. It's pretty easy for me to pick any one of these. I think I'll go for the Confounding Parable, though, just because those are those aren't something that Mrs. Kill is going to wind up giving me. Hello, Zelphea. How are you doing tonight? And I think we're on to 108, so we'll read that. Okay, so again, I'm potentially setting myself up for a little disappointment here with Opening the Sky. That one needs Rose and Sky. Let's set aside... Okay, so I'm kind of setting aside 5 in this case. And normally what I would be doing is I would be doing things like farming and all of that, but I just don't have that much to do with the farming. So I'll use one of these to draw up some water, lower the bucket creaking into the dark. At some point I will talk with Terrence to feed them, but I don't think I'm at a point here where I want to give up the elements of the soul for Mrs. Kill. So maybe I just wind up using these for cooking. I don't know. We'll see. I guess the last thing is I should make some... I should probably make some invitations as well. Quite tired, but otherwise okay. I know I had a long rest before stream, but it still doesn't mean I'm fully recovered. Okay, so... I think that's really all that I want. I know I tend to do like these huge orders, but I think probably at this point it's better for me to deliver, or it's probably better for me to just get the order out. So there's the 6 pence. While we do that, let's get the TRN order in. So I think I'm gonna grab a couple butter, maybe 1 milk, 2 or 3 butter. And then I'll get some sugar as well. postmistress signs and seals the order and places it in the place that stamped orders are properly placed. Wait 3 days, she commands. All right, so butter, milk. Yeah, so let's add the 3. Or 2 more, rather. Add 2 for a total of 3. I really do need to find a better place for all of these things, but... Okay, so that's my bread making for the next little while. I think I'm going to do 3 sugar. There 'tis and can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. So this is good. This is something that I can actually use to level up Sky Stories when the time comes. Okay, so sugar, butter. We don't really need the potatoes. We can get those through other means, and we've already got the one that we need. So I think, again, I don't want to do a massive order. I think we're ready to post this. So crown should do. Complete the order. And for the rest, we're going to wait to read the remaining books. Again, we're not going to be able to level up Edict's Liminal right away, but we are going to be able to... We're going to be able to work on some of our intermediate needs in a little bit. The Sea does not regret. Isan Fekri, one-time Secretary Salvant of the Curia of the Isle, responsible for the Curia's healing efforts, writes of his experiences in Brandkrug and hints at his travels elsewhere. The sea does not regret the tide, Fekri writes, for when the tide has passed, it leaves its traces on the sand, which traces are the sea's memory. Fekri is a keen fisherman and speaks glowingly of the fish suppers of Brandkrug. He also admits that his enthusiasm for the bounty of the sea has altered him, that before he came to Brandkrug, he consumed only those things found in the earth. I was the greater thereby, but all of us give up what we were to become what we are. So I'm going to set this on a different row. The Raptures of Forculus, the first volume of Abbot Geoffrey's hypothetical theological debates in the Socratic mode. If Janus were an hour, Forculus might be counted among his names, but that door remains sealed, and so Forculus is not. Geoffrey discusses the signs that mark doors, which might permit or forbid access to certain thoughts and dreams, speculating carefully on which of the sanctioned hours might teach or govern each sign. The Temptations of Architecture. The antiquarian and Nyctodromist Ambrose Westcott writes of the dangers of doors, with particular reference to a house in the bounds named Treowin. No doubt they have come to regret the ambitions of their winding stair, even now in Treowin. A silver sea is unwisely visible from a rash window. Westcott explains that the wheel locks, the charge holders of Treowin, have had recourse to dramatic measures to prevent oniric encroachment, removing the entire top floor of the building. Nevertheless, he writes, the business of the Moon Hall has begun to touch the other business of the house. And then this isn't for the, this isn't to level up the Edict's Liminal, but this is to restore what I had already used. Dirashu Quirkum. In English, the title translates roughly as The Account of the Oaks, but this is Nathaniel Darcy Evers' fascinating, if haphazard, survey of the occult properties of every tree he can find, not just oaks. In Persia, Taxus Baccata, the yew, is called Sorkdar, which is the red tree. There they had long understood the Grail root. In later times, the great king of Pontus had beehives set in the branches of the oldest of the female trees. The berries of the Pontine yew open the door to death, but the honey of their flowers opens a different door entirely. This was not the great king's Mithridate, but one who has suckled at the great yew fears poison no longer. Perhaps they should. Nathaniel is here distracted, however, by the toxic properties of certain inks. He does mention more usefully that the minor ink of power yew gall can be brewed through rites of the roots with the assistance of the aspect nectar. So, one thing I might be tempted to do in future playthroughs, because inks are becoming more important earlier on in terms of inviting people to the house, I may wind up leveling up skills like that a little bit earlier, for the simple reason that they will potentially give me the easy access to ink. So for instance, here with Rites of the Roots, all that I would really need in this case here is to take something like the Mortar and Pestle. It's not the only option with Nectar, just it's an example of one. So essentially that and any element of the soul that I can combine those with would give me access to an ink. Now, just having access to an ink doesn't necessarily mean that I'll be able to invite every guest, but it definitely gets me close. So, it's not really going to affect me now because I've got the typewriter. I don't need to worry too much about, I don't really need to worry too much about restoring, or I don't need to worry too much about like replenishing inks and things like that. But in the early game, it is sometimes a little tricky to get my hands on enough ink to invite everybody on time. So again, that's something I'll take care of in the future. It is winter, and the storms have tightened the seas. I am sitting before the fire in the sweet bones with a beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. We're definitely getting to winter time here, so I'm enjoying these descriptions a little bit more. I looked out the window at work and all the... well, not all the leaves, but most of the leaves are actually already gone. So... Pilchards on toast, triply crunchy. And of course, the dough here is just so that I can... so I can restore the bread that I used. So we'll use that right now with the whisk. Although I guess I don't need the cake bowls in this case. Oh. Baked bread, a dish with, excuse me, edge, forge, heart, and nectar. All right, now, we've got, okay, so we've got the game chips, we've got the Pilchards on toast, so it's the pear meringue that I'm missing. I'll make that if I have to, but I think at this point I'm happy to just wait for... I think I'm happy to just wait it out. So I guess at this point I really do need to figure out what I want to do with the rest of the day. And I think a lot of that's going to depend on... I think that's going to depend on listening to the opening the sky. So again, I don't normally like sitting around like this during the day, but this is one of those rare cases where it works out. 108. Ava de Wolf discourses on the fifth history, and particularly on those who are said to have passed over from it, the great hooded princes, the Knocklong, who ascended under the mother of ants, but now, so Ava claims, honor the horned axe. The great hooded princes call their library the Tomb of Lies, and this has given rise to a foolish tradition that the princes are habitual liars. Of course, in fact, truth flourishes when lies are slain. On the other hand, the princes do not say knowledge is power, but rather power is knowledge. Ava has, to her regret, never visited the library. She notes that it is said to be west of the Lion and north of Victory, and suggests that, although the princes are generally associated with India, their library might be further east. Okay, so let's get this read. The funny thing is, I always felt a little weird about using Thyrsa's phonograph because this was added later, but it is very convenient to use. So Thyrsa Blake invited a nameless friend, or according to Brandkrug tradition, her sister, to Hush House to recover from an illness. Thyrsa was uncharacteristically secretive about the whole business, perhaps because her own solicitude embarrassed her. She cooked her guests' meals herself, read to her in the afternoons, and purchased this phonograph so her guests could listen to Viennese opera. So, confounding parables, sights and sensations, a Faust, and then we should be able to read Opening the Sky. But if I'm going to be leveling that up twice, if it's Sky Stories, I'm going to need to make sure that I keep 2 FET set aside. So I'm going to do that now. I can master this mystery. Enough sky to match Mystery Sky. We do have the option of reading these other 2 books, but I don't know how much more. I think we have more than 1 day, but I'm not certain, so I don't want to rest on that. And you'll notice here we've got our impulse, so really, I think at this point, the so what I need are Stolen Secret, Impulse, Pattern, Salt, Secret Threshold, Name Day Riddle, and Occult Scrap. So what I'm going to do here, we're already making the Name Day Riddle. I believe we're doing that down below. Yeah, so 24 seconds. In this case, I'm going to read whatever will get me the Stolen Secret, and that's just because it's a fairly rare, it's not impossible, but it's fairly rare memory for me to get from one of the assistants, and in this case I can see some value in just leveling up Edict's Liminal and getting the Elements of the Soul now rather than trying to get lucky. So, the Velletri interviews. Oh yeah, we did, we actually read this fairly recently, but this is gonna, I also forget that this is a separate set of requirements, but that's fine. So in 1 minute we'll have what we need to be able to level up Edict's Liminal. Of course, the funny thing is when I talk with Ava, we're gonna wind up with a Stolen Secrets memory, and I'll feel silly, but. Okay, this will toss into the water. I don't have much use for it. Ava's Locks, on the other hand, we do have some use for. That's going on the bridge. I will eventually toss out a bunch of this stuff, but I think I forgot to. No! So this is more just about the chance. If I don't get something that I want, it's a bit of a bummer, but it's not the end of the world. The biggest thing here is that they do sometimes get me either packages, which can have some interesting things inside of them, or at least in other seasons, the Moor will sometimes give me cooking ingredients. So it's one of the reasons why I kind of want to keep going there, even if the majority of the time the result isn't important. It's something that I still want to put on the to-do list. Okay, so this we're going to use with Coil and Chasm. I think I can do this. Actually, I'm not sure if I can do this at the Calcite altar. We should be able to do. No, okay. Oh, right, it's the Catacombs. So, health there. Hold moment. Discern a potency of scale. Is this the path to the wood? But perhaps the wood is not a suitable place for a librarian. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 is on its way. When something is given to the sea, it rarely returns, although of course I did. Okay, this I'm just gonna put on the shelf for now. There may be an argument for me to, you know, to just use the glass of water and restore things right now, but I don't need, I just don't really have that much use for it right now. This is also good. So that's basically my second level of Sky Stories once we finish reading the book. We'll keep chatting. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, we will get the... Yeah, we'll get the memory before Mrs. Kell's done. This one's always a horrible one to read. This is actually one of the reasons why the Connie decision is quite a tough one. For those of you who may not have seen it, one of the sort of missions that we need to do, or one of the further stories that we need to do, Connie is considering her position as far as the Suppression Bureau is concerned. And this would be because the Suppression Bureau have sort of made a deal with the Ostorium. And to a certain extent, so I'm trying to figure out how I feel about the Ostorium. Just because I've become slightly less, I guess because I've become less strict when it comes to the, sorry, just give me a second here. There's something at the bottom of my desk that I can't quite feel. I had to take out one of the parts from my computer fan, and I think I might have left it down there, but... Anyways. So yeah, basically from Cultist Simulator, whenever I encountered one of the gods from nowhere, and we talked about this in the last stream, it was pretty much a non-starter. Actually, there is one thing I want to do. I want to see if I can bring up those other tarot cards, because we talked about the Crowned Growth, but there are others. So... Interesting, they don't show the images. So I'm just going to take a second here and I'll bring up whatever tarot cards I can find for the gods from nowhere. So there's the Crown Growth, there's the Mare in the Tree, there's the Applebright's not the same as the Mare in the Tree. But I don't think there's a tarot card for the Applebright. Certainly not one here. Anyways, so this is kind of neat. So if you remember the... there's the discussion that we had about the... Oh, come on. There's the blog post that basically it was let's try that again. I wish there was a slightly better way for me to present this, but I don't have much. So, here we go. So this is the Crown Growth. This is the one that we talked about on Wednesday. I saw all the intermediate ones, but you know, we've got the banners in the background. We've got the sort of spikes growing out rather than an actual hat. We've got all the various symbols of power. But the one detail that I liked about this, and I'd sort of forgotten about in terms of the discussion, was because the gods from nowhere are sort of these unnatural things, the intention for the cards was to have them have this sort of otherworldly appearance. And so these would be the ones where, in this particular case here, the growth was growing outside the bounds of the card, and that was supposed to be sort of an indicator of the fact that this was a nowhere hour as opposed to the other ones. The other one, the only other one that I've seen is the Mare in the Tree. Now, I don't know if this is maybe just an intermediate one or not. I don't think this is. Well, I don't know actually. I mean, I suppose I should look this up. But there's a bunch of interesting details in this card for sure. But I'm not entirely sure it follows the sort of unnatural borders convention, right? So we have a bunch of interesting little details. We have the bees in the background. We've got all the masks. I mean, I suspect the masks are fairly obvious. We've got the wine bottles, the glasses. We have our Disney scene going on in the background here. And another little bee. I actually wonder, because there's a couple of indicators for some of the portraits, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. But anyways, the mayor. The thing that's kind of nice about these is I can't tell you every single detail for sure. I believe there is a discussion about the relationship between the I think it's the Ringu and the Mare in the Tree. So I think there's a couple of references in this image. Sorry, I find it a little harder to keep track of these. But like I said, we got a really interesting account of the detail that goes into the descriptions for these, but I don't know. I don't know what happened to that question of borders. But anyways, so the reason why I was going on this digression was the decision that Connie's facing is actually a tricky one for me, because like I said, I've slightly softened my views on the gods from nowhere. I sort of recognize that there is some purpose to them, or at the very least they've done something in the game. They serve a certain purpose. For instance, we'll run into a couple of books that explain Calyptra, and as much as I don't like to admit what I would associate with the red flower, it does seem to be pointing towards a conclusion that maybe was one I didn't want to accept, and you can refuse to believe it, or you can inform yourself more about the world by saying it's like, okay, we have new information and the things are not the way I wanted them to be, basically. So the as best as I can put it, the Hostorium is a South American equivalent to Hush House. I believe the Hostorium is both the name of the library but also the group behind it. And it's largely considered to be this place where sort of the forbidden knowledge is held, where it's where it would be, it's preserved, where it would otherwise be destroyed. And I believe the hour that I don't know if it's the protects it is the right way, but the hour that's associated with it, let's say, is in fact the crown growth. So, again, the sort of stuff where I'm like, okay, we don't touch that at all. And you have the Ortuccio incident. We're going to be running into a book that has, record that deals with the Ortuccio incident. There's definitely, it's easy to see why the Suppression Bureau would not naturally be friends with these people. But Connie is describing the fact that there does seem to be some arrangement between the Suppression Bureau and the Hostorium, and she is deciding what to do about that. And I imagine that it's either you give her information that will cause her to quit the Bureau. I think it even says quit the Bureau and quit the game. Or you can give her a document which will make her decide to stay. And what's interesting on this one, so I think most of the choices that we've gotten in the game so far have been pretty clear in terms of if you do X, then this thing will happen. And if you choose to do something else, then this other thing's going to happen. Sorry. Trying to deal a little bit with some of the mess on my desk, and I was wondering why my tablet felt a little bit rough on the back, so that was distracting me. So I realize I'm easily distracted tonight. But yeah, so first of all, I need to think about the documents that I'm giving Connie. I think there are some that are more likely than others to make her leave or stay. But so far as I can tell, the game doesn't tell you straight up, this is the one that's going to make her leave and this is the one that's not. In fact, it doesn't even tell you if a given book is going to work. I think you need to sort of figure that out from context. Although, let's be honest here, right? There's, prisoner diaries by callers. There's, there are a few different things. I'm actually slightly interested in seeing what happens if you give Glimmerings to Connie Lee, because that one does deal with someone who is imprisoned. But the thing is that I also don't necessarily think the Suppression Bureau imprisoned people for no reason. So that could be, like, the fact that someone's scared about being imprisoned is... Now, I guess in this one here, it's because they don't know why they're in prison, so then maybe that's a little bit different. But yeah, so basically, we ourselves don't necessarily know how Connie's going to react to one of these books. All that we can really do is give her the information. And with that in mind, right, I guess in the end, what I'm trying to do is give her information about the Suppression Bureau or the Hostorium. I need to give her one piece of information out of an entire library that will make her decide. So I need to represent a fairly complicated issue with a single work. Anyway, that long aside. It's a question I sort of have to answer for myself as well, because I sort of respect the existence of the libraries of the Watchman's Tree. I can accept, if not endorse, the existence of the Gods from Nowhere. But it would seem to me like this idea of a deal with the Hostorium and the Suppression Bureau, given that there's probably a fairly close connection to something that really did seem to result, like that, it's essentially the thing that made the Nocturnal branch fall apart. I don't know, there is that side of me that sort of says, this is the point that maybe Connie should call it, right? That we need some kind of change at the Suppression Bureau. So anyways, we'll see where it goes. I really need to... Really what I need to do is I just need to play through it a couple of times and decide which conclusion I like more. Anyways, Baked Bread, a dish with edge, forge, heart, and nectar. I imagine if I give her the David Green book, she's probably going to want to leave. Okay, the Velletri interviews. Interrogation of a man named Lacombe, a former Nocturnal Branch inspector, now identified as terminally robogoid. Lacombe is not especially lucid, and the state called Robagoya evidently includes a malady of the lungs which causes coughing fits. He weakens audibly over the course of the interrogation. He is questioned about the disposition of various unsanctioned items recovered from a Nocturnal Branch raid on a castle at Ortuccio in the region of the Fucine Marshes. He is, however, defiant as well as incoherent. Lacombe insists the items have been put to good use. He derides Nocturnal Branch as the lackeys of Calyptra. Alarmingly, during the last few minutes of the interrogation, he begins to insist that his interrogator should burn the library. He waxes enthusiastic about the fire he wants to see, leading to a final coughing fit, after which the interview abruptly ends. All right. This was the last piece that we needed for the upgrade. So, Edict's Liminal, door and wall, shopped, salt, pattern, secret. So I should read these. Salt, sea spray, depth sorrow, pattern, something fits just right, secret threshold. It's not easy to draw our own doors, but it's not impossible. Memory impulse. It doesn't exactly make sense, but I understand it anyway. Occult scrapped. Secret histories are layered beneath the ones we know, like notes in a rare wine. The librarian knows this well. A named-day riddle, a deceptively intricate riddle that might just teach us who we really are. Gervinus Van Loren was notoriously fond of these. And memory, a stolen secret, something I overheard in dreams. At last, I approach mastery. All right, so we're going to let that run. Now, at this point, I want to make sure, or at some point, I want to try and get the occult scrap back. I'm going to use the consider verb for that, of course, so we will continue to chat with Mrs. Kill. Solace. Okay, that's going to help me with the, with leveling up the Sky Stories. So this has been a pretty profitable little run with Mrs. Kill. I am going to need to start thinking about what I want to do with my remaining elements of the soul. We still have quite a few of them. Trying to think what I wanted to do with the 2 Wisp. I'm going to leave that aside now because I think our choices have changed. The skill is now level 8. Its power aspects have also increased. There tis and can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. Alright, at some point I want to talk with one of the chickens, but we'll leave that aside. So I definitely need to keep the 2 Fet away. That's so that I can actually level up Sky Stories when the time comes. Alright, what am I trying to do here? So I'll put 2 of these aside so that I can get the memories I need to level up. Yeah, okay. So this is my level up Sky Stories pile. This is you need to do something with the rest of the day pile. As you can see, there's a fair amount. So let's say the health goes towards... Okay, so there's no more cooking for me to do. So let's say the Arab goes towards getting the occult scrap back. We'll do that now. We will... Yeah, so I'll use the health to go to the moor. There's not a whole lot for me to do in winter with the heart. So in this case, I'm just going to take the core. We'll do what we can with orchids and narcotics and insects and nectars. I should actually probably add Echidna's prowlings to Coil and Chasm as well. So it says, I know that the Legion Echidna prowls the empty places. Consider this with the strongest of your Coil and Chasm, Pentiments and Precursors, Serpents and Venoms, or Wolf Story skills, and you'll learn how to invite Echidna to Brandkrug. Hello, Hit People Guy. You can talk to chickens, yes. They give you an egg, or you feed them. I'll be able to show you in a minute, actually. But again, talking with Mrs. Kill's given me what I need with the conversation. So, sorry, I do like to show, especially for you, Sophia, because I know you're still working your way through the game. I do like to try and show off the stuff that I can, but sometimes when I have tasks that I want to complete within a certain period of time in the game, I sometimes need to sacrifice the instructions so that I can get everything I need done. But I should be able to show that to you. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. I can do Path and Pilgrim again, I might as well. We're sort of at the point here where using up the remaining elements of the soul is a little more important than the efficiency over the course of the day, so I'll let that happen. I'm feeling okay with where we're at, although I am going to need to start making some choices in terms of how the overall day works out. And yes, we do have another day to go for the season, which is not bad. Okay, Sky Harmony, Opening the Sky, an unusual recording of Vero's Opening the Sky, composed for the coronation of the new king, Henry IX. The record bears the suppression stamp Expunge. The first movement is soft, autumnal. The second, unsettling, febrile. The third is bright, soaring, rapturous. The fourth movement is glassy, slithering, a tintinnabulous icicle rattle. The fifth returns to the theme of the third, bright and rapturous once again, but this is a choral movement. It becomes apparent, though, that these are much, much too pure and high to be human voices. They recall birdsong. They recall the sweep of the windswept sky, blue turning black against the edge of the higher heaven, and they wrench the heart in a direction the Bureau does not permit. So this gets me a cheerful ditty. That's also good for leveling these things up. So 2 strings and songs. And I am going to make sure that this gets properly labeled. So this is OTS. Okay, so I'm just going to take a quick second to double check my sort of my priorities here. I've got Sky Stories. Now, eventually what I want to do with Sky Stories is get that to level 5 in Birdsong. So I'm going to need one more after that. I think that might be what the Locksmith's Dream is about. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's some value in trying to read the Locksmith's Dream right now. I think the problem with reading it right now is that I don't think this is going to be done at a time where I can do anything with the memory it gives me. But then that just comes back to the old question, what do I do with my Whist and my Shapt and my Metal? So I guess the first thing that I'll do is I will... Okay. Some things we can only really understand when they're gone. Well, actually, I know one thing that I can do. We can go back to making the various... we can go back to making the various items for... like the Incastum Terminale, for instance. So here, if I take my Whist... it's never Quenchings and Quellings. I think it's Sights and Sensations. Ooh. Is that really the best winter I've got? That's weird. Okay. It shouldn't be that hard, though. Yeah, U-Blank will work in this. All right, Nihilocant. Clarify the preparation into the Incastum Terminale Nihilocant. You can do the same with Orpiment Exultant. I know that one's an easier one for us to handle. So I think Transformations and Liberations does that for us. You can take one of the Iotic Essences. Don't think I can make any of the others. Porphyryne might be somewhere on the list. I can move the Pilchards back down to the pantry. What have I learnt? Nothing's history when it first happens. Okay. We'll maybe take a chance with Echidna's Prowlings. Yeah, we need to wait for our Earthquake business. But yeah, we've got 2 Shapt left over. I don't really think there's a whole lot more for me to do with the Shapt right now. I guess we can take a quick peek at some of the options. So if we do Shapt here, Edict's Liminal. I mean, we can make this a bit of an experiment, so we add the Curious Hunch. Now, I guess the problem here is I can't add the Sacrament Ascite, although I would probably want to add the Glassfinger Toxin. I don't feel quite as good about this, but let's run with it. Yeah. So this will help with Reverend Tim. In fact, there's a small argument that I should do this now. It's just I don't really know if I can get my Curious Hunch back. You know what? I think it's still worth a try. Looks like I've tried this on a couple of things. That's really interesting. So what did you want? Oh, an egg. Yeah, let's maybe work out where I get my Curious Hunch again. Because it seems like I might be short on a few knock options. Yeah, so this is easier said than done, right? 10 knock if we're starting with 4. I'm probably going to want to hang on to that Curious Hunch with, for dear life, in fact. Okay, well... that told me a little bit. But the funny thing is, if I actually knock down the Curious Hunch... So, I guess the remaining question is, do I have... Yeah, I still have Moth Orchids kicking around, so... In fact, I have quite a bit of it. I'm also wondering if the Hawthorn... No. Okay, I can live with using the... Yeah, so in this case, I think I am going to make the sacramentacite. Which now makes me wonder if maybe I can make the glassfinger toxin somewhere. I'm running out of knock workstations, but we can probably try something at the Shrine to St. Januarius. Okay, so as long as I have some sort of a liquid, but the catch here is I actually need a bigger knock. Oh, well, we can start with a salt... Nope, not the salt sign. I think I might have gotten ahead of myself here. Alright, well, yeah, I'll live with what we've got. And I'll wait until... the next day. To make another glassfinger toxin. We do have a spare anyway. So I guess that brings me back to the question, what do I want to do with my shaft? Right now I'll just wait. Because I'll confess, I actually got a lot more done than I was expecting to with all of this. Also, it's foolish of me to not be leveling up Sky Stories right now. So let's do the Solace and the Gossip. Those are probably the two most likely that Mrs. Kill is going to give me. So consider I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. Speak half a syllable and feel the beast stir half a coil. Okay, there's the coil and chasm. And there's the earthquake name. Everything comes when it is called, even the nightmares that trouble stone's deep sleep. I can kind of afford to have all these back up. So we're not quite there as far as leveling up strings and songs. We still need one more. I actually might just take the Beguiling Melody because I can at this point. So if I do the Invisible Opera gives me Cheerful Ditties, but if we do the Lake Fusino recordings, I don't know if Whist lets me do this though. Yeah, so I can't listen to either of the phonographs. Yeah, we need Thyrsus for that. That's fine. Heart Unceasing. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. So now I have 2 spare Whists to work with. What I do with them, I suppose I need to figure out pretty soon. Satisfaction. Some appetites are easier to satisfy than others. So the Grail and Heart don't really do anything for me here. I'll maybe keep one of the Whists to feed the chicken. The skill is now level 3. Its power aspects have also increased. So the consider verb, basically we need the last memory. Let's take a minute here. So we take Echidna's Prowlings. I can't do anything with this on its own. Perhaps I wanted to consider a matching skill so I could increase it. So we take Coil and Chasm and Echidna's Prowlings. I know a little more about the Legion Echidna. If I meditate on the matter, I might find a way to invite her here. Okay, that's going to take a full minute. I rather wish I held off then, but we'll be fine. So the remaining questions are, I've got 2 Whist to play around with. One of them, I guess I can make some money at the Sweet Bones if it really comes down to that. I can use Ava's Locks to make another Solomon's Preparation. I don't really see a problem with that. I wonder if the Nocturnary takes plants. I can never remember. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, so it has to be a flower. So what else? Obviously, I can type up the invitations, but I'm a little more concerned about what I do with my elements of the soul to make the day count for something. I guess one thing I could do, I need to make sure I do it at the right desk, I suppose, but I can maybe try and make another amethyst ampule. Easier said than done, though. I actually don't have that many knock things. Yeah, this does the trick. Create an unusual and dangerous medicine, a paradoxical knock ampule. And the other thing is I can actually make some music. Well, hang on. I don't really have as many options to make music as I think I do. I'll keep this last Wisp in reserve. I'll probably wind up making money with it, but I don't want to rule out any other options. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. And actually, I guess I said I was going to talk to the chicken, so I think that's it for Mrs. Kill. Few flowers flourish in the depths of winter. Blue Crown is one of those few. Now, she did give us gossip, which is nice. So we can... Well, it would be nice. We actually can't level up the skill because I'm learning how to invite Echidna. And let's say we... Yeah, let's feed the beastie. Satisfy this creature's appetite. Food will make a hungry beast or a wild one cooperative. Alright. Now, I do have some leftover grapes, so I'm going to put those in the inventory. This is just so that I can wind up piling stuff up on the bridge, which I don't like doing, but I'm getting so much crap now in this playthrough that I do actually need to use the extra storage. This is partly on me for not unlocking more rooms. But. Okay, the Lake Fusino recordings. Recordings of the folk dances of the Fusine marshes. The wailing of flutes, the roaring of drums, cries like birds lost in the marshes. These are the songs the sisters sang to the witch that the Thunderskin roared to the sky. The songs with which the Dendrozons of the Mansis keep their vigil. Once heard, they are not forgotten. Okay. So now we're just sort of waiting for the day to finish. I may take a small break once the day is done just to refill my tea. Alright, out on the moors, I might be able to summon Echidna. Your skill has a new aspect. So, technique, Echidna's Prowlings. The Legion Echidna prowls the empty places. Walk on the moor and invoke Echidna with sufficient authority to be credible. You will need this skill, a soul card, an offering of serpent milk, which can be crafted from Perunculate with keeper level edge and some scale recipes, and a total of 7 scale. So yeah, I can definitely see why it recommended the highest level. Now, I mean, I kind of want to know what I get for talking with Echidna, but I don't actually have a problem trying to... Yeah, I don't have a problem trying to do this. I just think I want to get to a point where I can reliably create Perunculate. We're not quite there yet, but we are moving towards it. Alright, it has its uses, but none of them are simple and few are safe. I need to find a better home for the amethyst ampule. I almost forgot to level up Sky Stories. That would have been very sad. Okay, let's get rid of the gossip, the intuition. I guess we could do the cheerful ditty. Another fruit plucked from knowledge's tree. Improve the skill to level 4. I guess if it comes to it, we can always put these in the dispensary. Alright, so I need to pick what... so I do get my choice in terms of some of these memories on what I'm keeping. So let's take a minute to take a look at what I'm trying to accomplish in the next day. So... I need one more for Sky Stories, which is Rose and Sky. And then I'm going to need 2 more for Hill and Hollow, which will be Scale and Moon. So if I recall correctly, we're going to use the Locksmith's Dream, A Light Through the Keyhole, to get me Purifications and Exaltations. That will get me one... That'll be a lesson with Sky. So use that lesson with Sky to get me the Sky Stories. So that tells me here that I need something with Sky or Rose, and the only option there is the Beguiling Melody. So now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. Dreaming on a memory will preserve it past dawn, allowing you to keep it until the following day. The other thing that I want to do, so I didn't think to commit the Edict Liminal to the tree, but that's fine. While we're waiting for the evening to finish, let's get my invitations for the salon out, at least as far as I can. So for that, I believe I said I was going to invite... oh yeah, actually, I think I said that everybody can guess. But we need Moon for Connie, so Cyclone Eclipse. Oh, right. Need the typewriter. Alright, I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Connie to Brandkrug. So it's going to be Connie, Zachary, Wakefield, Daymare, Dr. Adim, and Mademoiselle Bichet. Oh, this is going to get a little tricky. Okay, sadly, I'm not going to be able to get Wakefield at this desk. I suspect Daymare will also be a problem. Well, we could try Door and Wall, but I don't think that's going to be... Oh, never mind. In the name of the 2 blades that are one of the threshold which has 2 sides. Alright, this is an Incastum Terminale, one of the great inks. Use it with your journal to record a history and fulfill your reason for coming to Hush House if you so choose. Nillicant, the Incastum Terminale of the 3rd history. It's the bleak white-blue of winter. It has spawned an itinerant order of secret celebrants who regard worms as semi-gods, and who are sometimes called on to celebrate difficult funerals. Use an Incastum ink with your journal to make determinations and record histories. If the hours listen, the world changes. Now I thought we had done I thought we'd made an Orpiment Exultant before. If we did, we didn't put it in this room, which is normally where I put my powerful inks. I'm not opposed to putting them in new places, but we'll get bold. But it does make me wonder where I put the last ornament. Alright, Orpiment Exultant, the Incastum Terminale of the 4th history. It's the incandescent orange of Forge. One ingredient, it's been, as it were, long rumored, is the blood of candescence. Certain Masonic and related traditions venerate what they call OE. This is actually bugging me a little bit, so I'm going to take a minute to go through the... Oh, here it is. So one of these I'm going to eventually use to invite Hokabal to Posend. But a full belly makes a helpful friend. Terence the Chicken. Was this magnificent and indomitable beast named for the rector's indomitable and magnificent housekeeper? Best not to inquire too closely. Now we just need to post it. Alright, so there's the invitation to Dagmar. Dr. Adim. That's gonna need a lot of rows. Actually, I don't even know if I have the rows to be able to pull that off. Okay, well, let's get Madame Bichet in. What did I do wrong? Oh, Moth. Wait a minute. Olympi... Yeah, there we go. The skill is now level 4. Its power aspects have also increased. Alright, so I'm going to take a minute here to... I'm going to take a minute to reposition this. This will eventually become a level 5. Alright, what else do I want? I guess more invites, but can't do those quite yet. Now I just need to post it. Okay, so I guess we'll use, well, we can use the Vagabond Desk. An elegant relic repurposed by Green for his small and secret war. Ah, alright. So this is the problem with putting the inks there. Alright, so I'm looking to add... Right, it was the inks. Gold scrap. That ain't right. Ah, the book. Alright, request Aladim's presence. I did make some food for him, right? Pheasant for Connie. Pale marrow for Wakefield. Game chips for Dagmar. Pilchards on toast for Adim. And a pear meringue for Madame Bichet. Yeah. Okay, so the last one would be Wakefield at a wintry desk. This one's a bit easier. We can do quenchings and quellings. Quenchings and quellings is overkill, but they don't take that long to write, so... Now, one thing I also have the option of doing in future would be just to have a bunch of letters in reserve, but this is a nice little way of making sure that I don't invite somebody who I didn't intend. And I already take enough time sort of doing little side tasks which aren't entirely necessary, so I will be patient. Okay, so depending on how the day goes, we may have a few other things that I want to do, but I've got a couple of easy steps that I can do right away. One of those is to read the paper, which is something I should get better at doing in the real world. And then we can get started on the locksmith's dream, A Light Through the Keyhole, right away. That's another easy one to do with my surplus whist. And we'll add... I'll try not to go completely crazy on this one. So, Lantern Revelations. I can master this mystery. Enough lantern to match Mystery Lantern. I think before I invite someone to the house, I'm going to see what the weather brings. Because it would be kind of nice to try and unlock a room if something fits. Yeah, that's not a major goal for today, but I think if I can make it work, that would be nice. I also think probably, I was debating about this, but I think I should actually do the Viennese Conundra as well, because the Sky Stories isn't that hard to level up. And Viennese Conundra isn't actually going to be enough to push me over the edge for the thing that I need, so... this one we can use Inks of Containment? Sort of. We need to add the Lunar Globe, but that still does the trick. So I might be signing myself up on a little too much, but Moon of Culmination, I can master this mystery. The other thing I should have done, which I neglected to, was Crowcross Sands and the Moor. And then from there, what I probably should do is I should make a couple of evaluations in terms of what I want to do next, because the skills that I was currently working on, Hail. I think I had said that I wanted Sky before, but I believe that was related to leveling up Sky Stories, which I was already able to do. So there is, however, an argument. I believe there's a couple of edge rooms that I can work with. So we've got 14 at the Slithering Fountain, 14 in a Wintry Forbidding. $13 in the Trapped Cell. Okay. This is going to be a slightly more difficult one for me, but I think this is actually worth the effort. So I'm just going to need a minute here to... Oh yeah, I said I was going to get some extra tea as well. Let's take a minute to figure out how I might do this. So we'll say Denzel... for 1. So metal... No, hang on. Denzel's worth 2 edge. So metal would give us the 1. That takes us up to 3. I believe the best tool that we can do for edge still only gives me 1 edge, but I do want to double check. Yeah, okay. So that takes us up to 4. Now the question here is the Invincible Audacity. There's the winning move and there's the Invincible Audacity. So... which, of course, the funny thing is that that completely defeats the purpose of adding the Hail. This is good to know. I should have thought of this before. So if I go to the kitchen now, I don't think well, I sort of need to add the... So any leaf that I add, I can even drop the hail in this case as long as I use an element of the soul. I can make Perinculate. Now the real question is whether or not I can make more than Perinculate. Not with these. But I do wonder if I add the Perinculate itself, which I can't do here. Where might I try that? I think I would have to do that at the forge. Yep. Okay, so now I've got a serpent milk recipe too. Now, right now, I need to count on 3 hail to deliver that, so I wouldn't, or that's not, sorry, I don't need to count on a hail for that. I need to count on something with 1 edge. In fact, I wonder if maybe a Libidic tincture can help me out with that. But that wasn't what I was really looking for when it comes to edge. So Edict's Martial, the Libidic tincture. I absolutely should have been checking this out because it turns out it's even easier for me to make Perinculate than I thought. Edict's Martial with a metal, and again, any old leaf will do. There you go. Lesson learned. But what I'm really looking for right now is... Are you kidding me? Everything I've leveled up gives me Perinculate, and none of them are giving me the edge lessons that I want. Yeah, so we got Torg's Cleansing. We're close, but we're not where we need to be, and I want to get even higher. Okay, well, you know what? Let's simplify this and say hail for 3. So that brings us up to 7. So if the simplest room that I can open with edge would be the trapped cell for 13, that basically means that I need to get 5. Now, Denzel's a little unique because I can give him a medal, but as far as food and drink are concerned, I would need to find 5 in terms of food and drink, which with cooking in the game is not as difficult, but traditionally I haven't normally wanted to dip into, those stocks. So the pickled pilchards are something that can give me some edge. We've got... Yeah, the pickled mushrooms edge as well. I imagine pickled anything is going to give us the edge, but only the 1, so it's not one that I would want to... It's not one I'd want to rely on. Cuckoo honey maybe, but then I would need to find a drink that gives me 3. Of course, the answer there would be the serpent... Well, okay, the serpent milk is actually kind of the answer to everything. With that, I can just take the... 6, which, you know, again, not the worst idea. So if I were to do that, we could get him up to 10. Yeah, I'd still need the hail, though. Okay, so let's change this around a little bit. Let's say if I can make a Perinculate that I can eventually turn into a serpent milk, I will do it. So... And in fact, on top of that, let's take a look at any leaves that aren't Ava's locks that I have a lot of. Gorse. Okay, so I'm committed to that. And then I can actually already use the Perunculate that I have. So use that one, add the metal. This one I think would be Disciplines of the Scar. Right, and then the question is what's the one edge that I'm going to use? I don't feel quite comfortable... Or, hang on. So as always, the question is, how do I combine this in the way that makes me happiest? So the oubliette doesn't quite do it. The condignator won't take the ink. The Shrine to the Chancel doesn't take the... Yeah, so it's the lack of things that take the ink that really do it. But if I take Disciplines of the Scar, we can still add metal here. And I believe, as a solution, I should be able to take the Perunculate. And then for the substance, we should be able to add the Libidic Tincture there. And that makes the Serpent Milk. We still get to preserve the hail. So, it would seem to me, even though we're... Oh, and we didn't hire Mrs. Kill, so convenient for us. I think in this case we'll use the metal to speak with Denzel. Denzel will talk about practical matters, though he prefers to sit in silence. A shilling will buy his help for the day. What do you need? And on that note, we will get help, or give help with letters. I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There is no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. Or add a coin to find visitors seeking employment. I think we have what we need for today. I'll decide what room I want to open. Because again, we have a few options here. We've got the Slithering Fountain, we've got the Wintry Forbidding. I can't remember if any of these require edge. Sealed Vault, which... I maybe need to double check some of the metal that I have access to, but that may work. I don't know. I imagine the trapped cell is the one that's most likely to produce produce new books. Not that I need new books. I actually kind of need to read through my existing library. Okay, something for me to think about, but I am going to take a small break, mostly to refill my tea, but I think I just need to sort of shake the sillies out and get myself a little more focused. And then I'll try and go the full 3 hours. But it is getting a little late. But yeah, I will be back in a little bit. And if you've been here since the start, or maybe even if you've just been at your desk for a while, I recommend maybe getting up, having a stretch, otherwise taking care of yourselves. I'll try not to keep it too long, but feel free to spend that time however you see fit. I'll see you in a little bit. All right, thank you everybody for your patience. I really want to drink this tea, but it's just starting to steep, and if I do that now, it's going to hurt. All right, what do I want to do? I guess we're starting the day's work. I should probably... Yeah, let's probably work out what we need from Denzel first. I am kind of at the point now where having... Like, I've got all the elements of the soul that I need. So I can sort of fill up the day and I'll have a surplus left over. And again, everything doesn't have to get used by the end of the day. I'm a little... It feels wasteful not to still use all of them, so I do tend to, obsess a little bit about it. But today we're definitely going to take advantage of the extra edge that we have. So Denzel the blacksmith will lend me his strength for the day. Make use of the blacksmith's help before dawn. Denzel Smith, strong as an oak, blackened by smoke. He will never surpass his father, and he's no longer a soldier, but he still has his craft. Alright, so the easy thing I think right now would just be to talk to him about my... I'll just give him the easy upgrades that we know we're going to do no matter what, and then after that we can see if he'll give me some extra memories. The biggest reason for this is that I don't need to worry... Like, we've already got 2 books that we're reading, so I don't need to worry so much about piling on more books by the end of the day. I think we've got more or less what we need as far as extra things to do. I maybe should have used an Arab to talk with him, but it doesn't matter. Alright, our course is fixed, so next thing we'll do is talk about the weather. More useful than one might expect, especially in Britain. And again, some of this is just a matter of filling in the time while we read the remaining books. But in the case of Denzel, we are going to use the serpent milk when the time comes. And again, we already have, so the replacement perinculate that I'm going to put over here, we're already making that. And then the replacement serpent milk, again, we've got a pot, or little, I don't know if it's a pot or a, we've got a cup of serpent milk ready to go. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, stirring farmers to the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, I can probably afford to just throw whist at the problem, but I am going to cycle in and out until I know exactly what I want to do for the day. Because the last thing I want to have is a bunch of elements of the soul. Oop, I just lost my audio. It doesn't look like it's gone on the stream, but let me find out what happened. Okay. You can do it. I believe in you. So I just need to make sure the left and the right are working. Yep. Okay. Let's take advantage of the weather while it lasts. So we've got the memory, we've got the element of the soul. The last thing to do is the tool. I am going to take a second here to just double check that everything is... like everything that I have access to is 1. So we've got the bronze knife here, which is good for 1 edge. We have the saw, which is also good for 1 edge. And I believe the last option is the Cucurbit Barrette, which again is 1 edge. The temptation, of course, is to try these various swords, but these are wall decorations. And Hendrick's blade, well, excuse me, while a knife isn't a tool. Although we do need to remember that the typewriters are tools. So well, then again, the knife already gives me a winter tool, so... Anyways, I think it's fairly clear here that I don't have anything other than a single edge to apply as far as the tool is concerned. I can lend my assistant something to help increasing their abilities. You'll still be able to use the tool. And we should be finishing off the books in a little bit. I should actually probably get the memories that I need. At least for the Sky Stories. So we've got one already here with Beguiling Melody. Let's go... Well, I suppose an easy option here would be a Cheerful Ditty. And then, by the same token, a Savage Hymn would also work. Okay, so that's 3 of the 4. What was the other sky? Well, it doesn't have to be sky. It could be sky or rose. Oh, Confounding Parable. So we're already using Ava's desks for that. Okay. So it is written. So now we don't need to worry about Denzel for Sky Stories memories. However, we are still going to be trying to upgrade Hill and Hollow. Unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky. Now I don't see any value in keeping the quartz chunk, so we'll give that. Toss. Same with the sand. However, we're already tossing 1 item, so we'll just leave that aside. And we will head back to the moor. It's kind of tempting to do something with Echidna, but I'll replace the serpent milk first, and then we'll see what the day brings. I also want to make sure I leave at least 1 tryst aside so that I can potentially level up Hill and Hollow and its moon. With Keeper level Edge, Perenculate is the precursor to serpent milk. Although I don't believe that is... I don't believe you get that with the Edicts Martial. I can try, I'll maybe double check that, but I believe if you do the Keeper level Edge, you get the Forbidden Epic. Right, I would need the 4, I guess. Ah, dear. Oh, hang on. Wormwood Dream also gives me a bunch of extra edge. But yeah, clearly, I need something else. Figure I might as well see what's going on with the rest of the edge stuff. Well, now I know how to make a winning move. I feel like I'm under-leveled as far as the edge stuff is concerned. Like we have a lot of powerful edge material, but it's all focused on the sort of stuff that gets me the inks as opposed to the memories. And in this case here, the memories are sort of what I need. But I was sort of playing it by ear, so I mean, that's, I guess, a little consequence of how I was playing. When something is given to the sea, it rarely returns, although of course I did. This tool has boosted their aspects appropriately. So again, we know that we're going to be leveling up, or so we know that we're going to be unlocking a room tonight, so I'll use the serpent milk here. It looks almost like milk and it is drinkable, but don't give it to cats or babies. A nice drop. I can offer my assistants something to drink. This will increase their aspects. They'll also be glad of the refreshment. So if we want, that's the 13 that we need to be able to open up, not the Slithering Fountain, but the, the trapped cell. There is a small temptation to open that one, by the way. I'm just not sure if... I guess the next time I'm gonna... I'm wondering if the fact that I have the hail today means I should be getting a little more ambitious with my edge stuff. I'm thinking probably I'll try to get one of the 14s. I can use like the Acrid Marrow or something. Okay, The Locksmith's Dream, A Light Through the Keyhole, the first volume of Therese McGelmier's examination of the parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. The parallels in mystic dreams experienced by carpenters, masons, and other architects, and what they purport to reveal about the architecture of the world. Surprisingly mordant and even funny, no one has ever explained why Gelmier devoted herself to this chaotic exploration of artisans' dreams. Time and again we hear of the wood which rises from the world's foundations. All trees reach for light. What does the wood reach for? Is there a difference between light and light? I think the key to dreams of the wood might be one of these, the one that isn't exactly real. So purifications and exaltations. This has lantern and sky we're going to work with, and this gives me a revelation. So the revelation isn't really something that I need right now, but I can at least shelve it. And I think this is the revelations shelf. Yeah. Can I fit it? I can. Let's put that beside the other Locksmith's Dream. So we're not quite ready to level up the Sky Stories just because of the we haven't finished the 3 books I started later, but and here we have the Viennese Conundra. Van Driel describes odd events in Vienna, the disappearance of children, epidemics of parasite activity, animal mutilations, nightmares of worms, the activities of a charitable organization, the New Legions, that funds the burial of the poor. She proposes peculiar connections between these activities. When the individual K attends the meetings, black dogs are sacrificed and quartered. When the element M is in attendance, black mares are found with their throats slashed. I propose that these sacrifices are not necessary, but that our Legion friends may consider them fitting. Herewith, diagrams of the mutilations. Medusa's riddle, then, I choose to render as what is not seen. There is another riddle, one that I have heard rendered as what may be lost. I will delineate some historic attempts to answer it. These are, in themselves, in some sense, sacrifices. Okay, the fear will probably help me with the wolf stories. Or not wolf story, the Hill and Hollow. But to level up Hill and Hollow, I'm going to need another 3 memories, which I can probably work on now. Although I do also get the chance to talk with Denzil quite a bit. So let's split the difference. So I shouldn't need to write this down so much, but it's a heck of a lot easier for me to do it that way. So I'm not going to worry about Sky Stories. No impulse, hindsight helps. Fear, which we have. Stolen Secrets would help. Intuition and Confounding Parable. Contradiction. So out of these, we're already getting a Confounding Parable, so Contradiction is one of the first that I can actually use for the the hill and hollow. Gossip doesn't help me. Savage Hymns does. Earth Sign. Solace won't. Cheerful Ditty, Revelation, and Satisfaction won't. Okay, so we can do... Yeah, so Confounding Parable, Contradiction, and Savage Hymn are technically the three that I don't need to worry about Denzel replacing. But we are going to have a few of those after... sorry, we're going to have a few of those as a result of our current readings. So I think I'm actually just going to sit on these Elements of the Soul until I've leveled up Sky Stories, and we'll see what I'm doing with Denzel. No librarian of Hush House has ever died during the preparation of Serpent Milk. Thankfully, this was true yesterday, and it is still true today. Better now. So yeah, we'll wait. I'm going to wait on the existing readings that I'm doing, and then we're still at the halfway point of the day, so there's not too much that I need to worry about. Right, down to the Grussians. This has boosted their aspects appropriately. So I think what we'll do here is I'm going to give Denzel the Acrid Marrow. We are sort of starting to run out of... we're starting to run out of produce, but, I mean, the point of having this stuff is using it, so... Oh, I can feed him an egg, a viper egg. I will refrain from doing so, though. Oh, and I could make the meringue whenever I want. Okay, I'm actually going to make that meringue now. Offer something to eat. I can offer my assistant something to eat. This will increase their aspects. It's also just... Whoops. Also just friendly. Okay. So we're going to do that. I may also start feeding the chickens the pumpkin. But first things first. I've clearly been able to make a meringue for a while. So an ingredient for a higher purpose. The next step we'll add the pears. We've got more pears than I really know what to do with, so. Perugian Diaries. In 1907, at the age of 18, Christopher Olopoli left Strathcoyne's household to study theology at the University of Perugia in Italy, enrolling under the name Christopher Strathcoyne. For 4 years, since his adoption from a Bristol orphanage, Olopoli served as Strathcoyne's pupil and protege, but his relationship with this austere and secretive man was always complicated. His journal confides, "I still think Fraser's intentions are good, certainly he agrees, but I never understood the final goal of his investigations. He was never prepared to enlighten me, and good intentions or not, I can no longer bear this stream of eyes. We've agreed to part, almost amicably." Olopoli left Perugia in 1909 without completing his degree. He had long lost interest in his studies, and the latter half of his journal is concerned with his studies of Umbrian folk songs and notes towards his own compositions, which are of widely varying quality. One of the better ones, In the Marshes of Night, suggests he visited the site of the old Lake Fucinus near Ortuccio. The Singlefoot Songs. Father Stanislav John Schaller, priest and diplomat, writes of his time on the slopes of Huashan, near the Grove of Green Immortals, but never too near. Schaller's relations with the grove are cautious. It's a library of the tree, but under the hand of the hour named Applebright. In time, however, Schaller comes to be more sympathetic to the Applebright, which he suggests causes harm only when so invited. The Singlefoots of the title are one-horned, one-footed hill things with sweet but powerful voices, powerful enough to open the mountain. The Singlefoot sometimes trample pilgrims, sometimes heal them, sometimes coerce them to enter the mountain and become Singlefoots. Schaller explains that when he found this last becoming too tempting, he decided to return to his homeland. And it is written, Musgrave, fourth of the DeWolf line, writes tentatively about the Covenant of Brankrug and the legacy of the sacred inks he calls Incusta Potentialia. As the light passeth through a prism into many colors, so the great inks separateth into the lesser inks, and the lesser inks into inks minor. Musgrave coyly refuses to talk of the great inks, or else refuses to admit he doesn't know much about them. He insists that Ugol and Stargol, which can be mixed with sufficient nectar or sky aspect, are sufficient for most befitting purposes. Alright, so I don't see a whole lot of value in... So obviously there's some duplicates in terms of what I can do with the wolf stories, but I don't... the Hill and Hollow leveling up. But I don't see a whole lot of value in delaying the Sky story, so we'll just take all of these and level them up. I think I'll use the Faust in this case, just because we don't have an immediate use for it. So satisfying to have come so far. And then I guess at this point I don't really have many options left, so if I'm going to be leveling up Hill and Hollow, I will want to I guess it doesn't really matter which order I use. So yeah, I guess getting the Savage Hymn again makes sense. Oop. Sabazine. Now the Contradiction's kind of a no-brainer. That one I think we're on to the Ascendant now. It's been a while since I've read that one, actually. I know because of the Hyksos, I haven't used that for a while anyway. So that's 3 of the 4 that we need, and so I guess Confounding Parable would be the last one. And for that, we'll move on to the Moon's Egg. And then after I have the meringue, I'll use the Arab to make the pear meringue. Will be short. We're still short the pheasant, but that's not a difficult one for me to. Make. So we'll just take the one that we already have. The sustenance has boosted their aspects appropriately. So we'll just keep talking with Denzel. We don't have as much that we need to do with him right now, but I figure I can at least get a little bit of a pile of memories. And I think probably between the next 2 days, the skill is now level 5, its power aspects have also increased. So Sky Stories, the 9 Winds Gossip, and sometimes we can listen. So I'm thinking what we can do here, when we start moving to the next day, we can sort of figure out what the... Oh, a package. Contraband Flotsam. I am going to wait until after we level up Hill and Hollow. This one less useful. Yeah, I'm at the point now where I think probably I need to start thinking about some of the other skills that I want to level up. And we get one last cycle. Oop. I meant to replace that with one of the, because we've got more elements of the soul that I really know what to do with right now. Well. And 11 seconds for our next book, so nothing that Denzel gives me is really going to be that relevant, but... Alright, an ingredient for a higher purpose. What I may actually wind up doing is I might make a bunch of these intermediate ingredients like meringues and dough. just so that I can have them ready to go. So with that in mind, let's say we set aside 1 health for leveling up. Things I can use in the kitchen are whist, Fost, metal, I'm not going to use the Trist, Arab, core, yeah, so this is what I can use in the kitchen. And then, of course, there's the old, there's the work. Hello, Bunkles. There is also all the stuff that I can make with, in terms of crafting, but not going to worry about that quite yet. Speak to Denzel. He might even reply. Yeah, so let's get the pear meringue made at least. I figure if I can make it less crowded on the vestibulum transitus, the better. Right, spices. Bake a pear meringue, a dish with forge, grail, moon, nectar, and winter. The Moon's Egg, the third and last volume of the Meditations of Abbot Thomas of the Abbey of the Black Dove. Abbot Thomas speaks of the coming death he hears in the sound of the waves, but rejoices that his blood will water the egg of the moon, by which he means the future. Oh, yeah. And the last chapter was dictated, not written, by Abbot Thomas. When Thomas's old sword brother Trigev returned to raid the abbey, Thomas had broken his monastic oaths and taken up arms to defend the abbey. The two had been both mortally wounded. Thomas's last words are, "The wheel turns, the moon sleeps." Unhatched hymns. Hymns attributed to St. Lucia the Eyeless, patron of glassworkers and name of the hour called Menascate. The hymns venerate every sanctioned hour, celebrating them as the sun undivided, but also suggesting that each hour may become the next, madrigad to watchman, watchman to wolf, and so on. The hymn of the phases celebrates the Menascate, from whom we do not turn, for the truth which is beauty, the beauty which is truth, and the perfect balance between the two. The hymn of the Reflections, more puzzlingly, celebrates the Menascate as sister of Janus, mother of Shadow, whose visage wondrous in emptiness can reveal all truths. And the Ascendant, the edge-long Dardash, boasts of her victories over her brother enemy Tarag in the days of the Shadowless Empire. Sweeter than wine, than nectar is the blood of my brother. We have raised up armies one against another. We have sated the Blackbone with the sinking of our ships. Dardash's boasting at length turns melancholy. An Edgelong is half a dyad. She may not defeat her hated brother enemy without ending herself. She doesn't even want to, but she is aware, to her frustration, that she is a piece on the board, an axle on the ox cart, an essential part of the eternal engine of contention which the Lionsmith and the Colonel use to sustain the world. Okay, so we're ready to put another not so... I would be so mad with myself if I did that. I am, just because I made that mistake, I am going to just double check what I've got here. So my to-do list had Sky Stories and Hill and Hollow, and then my overall plan that we worked out a couple of streams ago, Hill and Hollow was supposed to be, at level 6. Okay, so we're still one short. Sky Stories was still supposed to be level 5 though, so so a little bit of a shame I tripped up on the need, but I'm actually gonna change this around. We'll use the Tryst instead. So satisfying to have come so far. Improve the skill to level 5. Okay. We do have a bit of time, so if I want to use elements of the soul to make things, I still have the option. But my first move now is actually going to be, I'm going to make a bunch of intermediate ingredients. So we'll take the Faust. I feel a little weird using up all my eggs this way, though. Maybe we're due a conversation with one of the chickens. The only thing is, I really want to clear out a lot of this nonsense in the pantry, so. Alright, that's a start. And again, I don't have to use every element of the soul by the end of the day. It's really just a chance for me to clean out. Hey! Delivery from TRN Limited. So that's my pheasant. Just in time, too. He does a lot with silence, this man. So I think we can actually start... So if we get Numa, that's going to be a bit of a drag, but... I think we can probably start... we can start the next season off with... like straight away with... with the Salon. It's the first time I've been able to do that. Now, I suppose the question is whether or not I want to do that, because I can get myself more elements of the soul, but help with letters, I can offer with help with correspondence and arithmetic. There's no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. Now, I did say I was going to have a conversation with the chicken, which I didn't do. All right. So thank you for your help, Denzel. I'm going to have a chat with Tuppence. Tuppence's most notable quality, all observers will agree, is that she is not Terence. Offer this beast my company. Who knows? Perhaps it will offer something in return. And there's our pear meringue. Harvey Haddington, during his convalescence at the house, became obsessed with meringuing techniques. He was known to sneak down into the kitchens and interfere with the cooks in pursuit of his ideal. If I'm lucky, I've actually used up all the sugar. Cool. Oh, but you know what? I don't have bowls, so... Probably just as well, because I want to cook the pheasant anyway. Okay. Actually, I guess I can do some gardening in the last minute, because I'm using them in other ingredients. I just got them back, but let's go... Actually, the health and core I can use for garden. Well, I have to use one of them, so might as well use the health here. Roast a pheasant, a dish with forge, heart, rose, scale, and sky. Alright, another meringue, an ingredient for a higher purpose. Rat. Alright, I also forgot that we have that package, so that's a pretty straightforward one for us to handle. Something shipwrecked. What ship lost this? Alright, so I'm gonna make bread now. At least what I can. So I'm getting a bit low on milk, but I think we will have some... I think we'll get a replacement before too long. Actually, I may have underdone it on the milk now that I think of it, but... Again, right now I'm trying to convert some of these single items into... Or, well, they're intermediate goods, but essentially the intermediate goods that wind up taking effort to make, I kind of want to make as many of those. I should get rid of the Isle water at some point. Okay, that's good enough for now. And I don't really need it, but I do have lots of elements of the soul to work with, so I am going to get a couple more blue crown. Although even then, I have more elements of the soul than I know what to do with. So for those, let's do... I can make a old moment that I can try and keep overnight. It'll be quite late though, so maybe I'll hold off on that. I can go to Ambrose's desk with the Faust. Nope, that's a secret threshold. So I figured the Amethyst Ampule is not a bad one for me to go with. I might be able to get away with transformations and liberations and another one of these iotic essences. Nope, we're too short, so I do need the metal for that. Oh, but I have the foresight, so there we go. Another Orpiment Exultant. Which just leaves me with the core. With that... I mean, there's a few things that I can do. I guess I'm just trying to think whether or not there's anything that I'm... Oh, you know what I should have done? If I'm using this up, I should have used Denzel to open up the room. A Wintry Forbidding, Icy Mists, Coil, and Drift. I don't think I can do anything with this, but I'm going to experiment with some of my heart right now. So I take the Storm. For experimentation, I'll see if I have a Ruby-Wise Ruin that I can use. And for matter, I guess the heart in a jar does the trick. Okay. Oh, that's nice to know. So if I need Peribiot, I can make it. All right. Quenchings and Quellings, I think we've already worked out. Well, okay, I think this might be January Sanguinary, but I haven't tried. What was it? Gideon Soaks. Against my better judgment. So I think the trick here... Oh, okay. Good to know. I will eventually try the Pale Mommet and such. If a scholar level recipe with an instrument you can... Okay, fair enough. Agaphine Mystery. I suppose in the absolute worst case scenario, I can make Gideon Soaks. It just feels like a pretty lame consolation prize. Let's take a minute here and see if I take the Storm... Well, that's just it. I don't really have a whole heck of a lot to add to that. So it's all well and good for me to say stuff like strings and songs, but unless I can find another 2 heart, which in its current form isn't really an option here, am I really doing anything that I need? It probably would be if I was focusing on something that I could create with at the cooking workstations. So, I suppose my outside option here would be to go to Nona's desk, add desires and dissolutions, and we can just make a simple witching to sane. Hush House still rings with thwarted desires. I'll mix that into a to sane. Unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky. So that will be useful in its own way. These, again, I'm generating more stuff which I'll throw away for a memory than I'm actually generating those memories, but that's fine. I can do a big kind of junk sale if I really want. Now, I guess I'm forced, at this point, I'm kind of forced to think about what my next batch of lessons is going to be. So the one thing that I didn't get done was Hill and Hollow. I'm actually going to take a second to put those in. So I actually need to wait on the recipes. So what I'm trying to do here is decide what memories I want to keep and what lessons I'm going to be working towards. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering, farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. And now it suggests a meal would be welcome. So technically, if I wasn't as obsessive with my elements of the soul, I probably could just use one overnight. But, you know, there's always the possibility that Numa happens, so I still think it's the right call not to do that. Alright, and the next chamber. The Chapel Asite, the Horned Axe, says, "Never speak of this mystery. When the Thunderskin was mortal, he served the hours who slew my kind. I required the Thunderskin's death, and so the Grail gave him up. There is always a reckoning, and nothing is truly forgiven." So we have the Altar Asite, the Horned Axe, who opens the way and keeps the threshold, is accounted the last of the gods from stone. We have 4 Dawn Period books, and then we have a few different items. So an Owl of Spirals, an ancient bird for an ancient place. I thought we had one of the... Oh yeah, this is it. Cat of Depths, a votive offering to the Horned Axe. We have a Serpentinite slab, the grey-green root rock of the Cornish coast, the granite slab, long cold volcano blood. And we've opened up the path to the honeyed forbidding, 14 heart, 14 nectar. And of course, if you notice, these sort of correspond. So at the higher level, we've got aspect of the Malachite, Mylissa, Queen, and Pallas. One of the kinder aspects of the Malachite, Mylissa, both Queen and Pallas, who feeds all comers, whose body is the house in which her children dwell. Mylissa was not always a name of the Malachite. She may have been a name of another hour. She may have even begun among the Carapace Cross before she chose eternity over history. Aspect of the axe, Zenodis half-faced. Or is it Zenodis? Or Eurydice? Sorry, one second. So it could be Zenodice half-faced. One of the more enigmatic aspects of the Horned Axe, Zenodice half-faced, who welcomes or slays strangers at the threshold. Zenodice is a sister sometimes to owl and cat, sometimes to bull and butterfly, sometimes to dove and serpent. This hybrid nature suggests a link with the pre-human Carapace Cross, but that's not so surprising in a name of the axe. And finally, aspect of the Grail, Lagia the Queen Unsated, one of the crueler aspects of the Red Grail, Lagia the Queen Unsated, devouring mother, sister lover of Antaios. One tradition has it that Lagia took animal form so that she could satisfy her craving to devour her own children and go unpunished. Another that the animal form was the punishment for her incest. The Grail has often been tolerant of contradictions. Perhaps her part in the intercalate really was, after all, a long and subtle move to undermine eternity, or perhaps she's just not to be trusted. So the thing I find kind of interesting is that at least 2 of these have sort of mention of Carapace origins, and in the case of Lagia, this is an individual who sort of still refers to this pre-human period. And of course, we also hear about Antaios. We hear about both Lagia and Antaios in other books. But I also tend to notice, so I feel that for the overall games, I think the Carapace Cross came up quite a bit more in the Dancer DLC. But in Book of Hours, there's definitely a few things that were introduced and interesting. So the catacombs. Can zoom in. I'll see. Sorry, I want to still make sure that I have these other 3 up as well. All right, that's as good as I can get. It's the placement. But yeah, so there's a few things that have sort of been introduced in the case of Book of Hours. And of course, it's always tricky for me to say introduced because I didn't really participate in the Enigmas. And I know the Enigmas sort of gave, at the very least, previews. It may even be stuff that hasn't been unlocked in the wider story for the game, but yeah, it would seem to me like the Chancel and Calyptra, I don't think had been introduced to the setting prior to this. At least I wasn't aware of them. Carapace Cross, I believe, had been referenced in one form or another since Cultist Simulator, but I definitely feel that it's been expanded on for instance, I don't recall if there was a mention of the different types the different carapace kinds. So like the Schimifectra and such. What are some of the other ones? Yeah, the World of the Little Red Sun, again, for some reason I always keep thinking of the time machine, like when he goes past, not just past the future that he visits, but even further. I always tend to think about that. I don't think that's a deliberate reference, but it's very hard for me not to think of that whenever I see the Land of the Low Red Sun referenced. But yeah, so one of the things that I do find kind of interesting on this one, again, it's just the choice of some of these specific entities that are brought up. I think in one sense it's an opportunity to reflect a little, or to expand a bit on the setting, which I imagine is a desirable thing for a developer to do. Although it is an interesting challenge in terms of Book of Hours, because it needs to be a standalone game, right? Even today, right? So this game is over a year old. It's got a lot of sort of post-release support in terms of all of these updates, free updates for people who have the base game. And for the people who, enjoy it and have bought the DLC, there's obviously, and essentially it's like another novel's worth of text that's been added to the game. And you have like the ideas of the Lighthouse Institute and such. So, the setting has been expanded, and obviously if you like Cultist Simulator, you are going to want to have more stuff, right? You're not just going to want to read the same books from before. But on the other hand, you do not want I'm repeating myself now, but basically, so there's that one side, right? The people who are already familiar with the setting are going to want new things. But on the other hand, even today, if you visit the subreddit, there's quite a few people who are still asking, do I need to, or in some cases, should I play Cultist Simulator before? And honestly, I don't actually think that's a requirement. Chronologically, I can see some sense in it, because I'm near certain that this game takes place after the events of Cultist Simulator. I don't think Cultist Simulator ever gives a specific date. I also get the impression that Exile takes place before Cultist Simulator, but I don't know if I've ever got, I think it's the reason why I get that feeling is because of the historical events that are being referred to. But I could be wrong, because again, I don't think there's a definite, I think there's a date that's referred to in Cultist Simulator, but as in day of the month, but I don't believe it ever comes out and says a specific year. In any case, so we've got, but I mean, the other thing is that if you want to play it, probably if you must do it in terms of any kind of chronological order, I think a chronological order in the sense of when these things were released probably makes the most sense. So you play Cultist Simulator, and chances are it's going to be something along the lines of Aspirant, which is always the first one everybody does, then probably Bright Young Thing, then probably Physician, which is most likely going to be the first win. And then from there, some variation of either, Detective, probably one of the Apostle runs, then the DLC, so the Dancer, Priest, Medium. And then from there, it makes sense to do Exile, because Exile is just so completely different from the rest of the base game. And then at that point, it sort of seems to make sense to do Book of Hours, but Book of Hours, I would say especially after Exile, because there's definitely references to some of the things in Book of Hours in Exile. But again, that is largely built on the premise that you enjoy, that you actually enjoy the game, right? If you cannot stand Cultist Simulator, then clearly recommending that you play, 4 or 5 different legacies to sort of see where the lore winds up taking you is a bit of a tall order. So, and with that in mind, like I actually really think the game delivers on this. I can't say for myself, you know, I started the game at the Unity prototype of Cultist Simulator, so I really can't say. Not that I was like highly registered with the, you know, the setting, mind you. That I sort of began to appreciate after the full release. But, excuse me. But yeah, like I sort of feel that. Like this game was made for a reason. With the tone that it has, it was sort of made with that tone for a reason. But with that in mind, like as somebody who has been with the series for a little while, I do kind of find the very specific choices. It's not that they go into other parts of the setting. It's that they always make very specific choices to a very specific subset of things. Because I would argue that there are still plenty of open questions in the setting that could be a subject for, you know, an expansion or you know, the subject of additional books, additional markers in the house or something like that. But they chose this specific set of common things to refer to. What it means, I don't know. I'm still working on that, but it's definitely, for me, I do find it interesting, and I do sometimes like to think a little bit why they may be directing my attention in a specific way. We'll talk about this more when we get to the histories that we're going to write, by the way. All right, craft a witching to Sane. It's best when it's warm, but it'll keep. I guess we already have one of these in Alopolis Nook, but... And more dough, so I don't think I'm going to be able to fit this in the pen. Oh, I am. Okay. Alright, so this is what I was waiting for. And another tall parcel. Alright, we'll just keep that on the bridge. So, and actually I'm going to order this. Where'd all my health go? Oh, right, I'm doing the, Okay, so 4 health. So what I'm doing here is just sort of a quick sanity check on what elements of the soul I would want to pursue. So for instance, core would be a higher priority. This doesn't mean that I'm going to ignore everything else, but okay. So I've got a couple more Shapt, which are already on the way. I'm gonna need a minute. Actually, I think this... Sorry, I'm trying to remember. I've got a few Excel sheets running around here. Absolutely not this one. So I'm just going to need a minute to consult a sheet that I made. Now it is on my tablet. Darn it. Okay, so one of the things that I sort of did, this was way back or earlier in the in my time with the game, but I did just sort of a breakdown in terms of the branches of the Tree of Wisdoms and the different elements of the soul that they would give you. So for instance, one thing I was kind of interested in was the totals. So for instance, there are 16 potential sources of Wist, 18 Trist, 15 Shapt, 17 Faust, 15 Metal, 17 Health, and then 16 for Fet, Arab, and Core. And then I can also break this down by the columns that I have here. So the Tree of Wisdom's branches, so 16 for Hushery, 17 for Ithistry, 16 for Birdsong, 16 for Nyctodromy, 16 for Illumination, 16 for Hormacistry, 17 for Bosk, 16 for Skolakosophy, and 16 for Preservation. Or the slightly, like the more concise way of putting it would be, you get one extra for Ithistry and Bosk. But the reason why this is an interesting list, for me at least, is the breakdown in terms of what branch gets you what. So for instance, for Wist, 6 of the Hushery skills will give you Wist, whereas 10 of the Ithistry ones will give you Wist. And then if you want Trist, 10 of the Hushery ones will give you Trist, 8 of the Birdsong ones will. So where this becomes useful, and the reason why I've sorted out the elements of the soul the way I have here, it's very clear that the thing that is more likely to make me stumble during a Salon would be the core more than anything else. So with that in mind, I might ask the question, well, where am I going to get some core from? And so the answer to that would be Birdsong, which has 8, or Preservation, which has 8. So, and then the other ones that I would want to say, so actually I'm going to take a quick second. I think I'm just going to put that in directly on my notes, just so I don't have to consult this again. I mean, it doesn't hurt to consult it again, but just can make my life a little easier. Okay, so for core, Birdsong and Preservation. For Arab, that would be Bosk and Skolakosophy. And this is because I don't have the individual elements of the soul the individual skills and elements of the soul that it'll get me. So in this case, I just sort of want broad strokes of where, given the opportunity, where do I want to push this stuff? Faust and Shapt. So Faust would be Ithistry or Illumination, and I think I've already finished Illumination. And then Shapt, I imagine one is Skolakosophy, and I can't remember the other one. Nyctodromy. Now again, that's not to say that I want to ignore Fet, Trist, or whatever, but I'd say the ones that are 3 or lower are probably the bigger priority for me here. So with that in mind, I'm now going to take a quick look and see what do I have Birdsong-wise. Well, we were working on Sky Stories, which we now have. Then we were working on Hill and Hollow, which we're on our way to getting. And then after that, it's Wolf Stories. Now that actually makes things a little complicated because Wolf Stories look for the exact same things that Hill and Hollow do. So it might be worth saying that the Birdsong might be something that I can't go any further with, but I'm going to write it down. And then for Wolf Stories, what we're really looking for there would be 5, I believe. Where are we? Yeah, so Wolf Stories is eventually going to become 7, so Not ideal, but there you have it. Then Path and Pilgrim. So that's a scale and rose, and that's going to need, if that's 8, that's going to need 6. And then finally, leaves and thorns. Okay. So then we do preservation. The reason why I'm doing this breakdown this particular way is it's giving me an idea here in terms of what branch I'm heading down. So essentially, I don't want to be in a situation where I say, oh, Hill and Hollow and Wolf Stories. Well, I've already got Hill and Hollow pretty high, so let's go on Wolf Stories. No, Hill and Hollow needs to get to a certain level before I can commit Wolf Stories. So that's why I'm taking it the way that I am. Preservation, so Menascate Reflections and Stone Stories are the next two. So Menascate Reflections, I believe, is Edge and Forge, and it's already at 3, so we just need another 3. We have Stone Stories. That strikes me as another thing that's going to be fighting for scale. Yeah, scale and nectar. And because that's eventually going to become a 7, that's going to need 5. And then we just have 2 more, so I might as well write them down. But we've got Tridesma Hira and Edicts Inviolable. So Tridesma Hira would be 8, so we need 6. That's Grail and Moon. And then Edicts Inviolable, we are taking up to 9, so that's going to eventually need 7. And that's Heart and Moon. So obviously so one of the reasons why I'm taking the time to do this too is that I can see here that there's actually quite a bit of competition for Moon lessons. So the thing that's nice is if I find a whole bunch of texts with a lot of Moon, then that's, it's kind of like the super lesson right now. I can apply that to a lot of different things. But what I probably want to focus on for the next little bit would be particularly the scale stuff, because Hill and Hollow wants 1. Wolf Stories wants 5, Path and Pilgrim wants 6, and then after all that, we still have Stone Stories, which wants another 5. So again, if I can focus on Nectar for Stone Stories, and then if I can focus on Rose for Path and Pilgrim, then that means I'm really just reduced down to 6 scale for Hill and Hollow if I want to save the Moon for other things. Okay, so that's... okay, so we're on to Bosk and Skolakosophy. So Bosk next would be Applebright Euphonies, which actually has a couple of other reasons to be leveled up. So, so that would be Grail and Sky. And that's... where were we? 6. So you can see here, right? I wouldn't necessarily want to compete with the Tridesma Hira because that's Grail and Moon, but if I can put the Sky in for Applebright Euphonies, that helps me out. Insects and Nectars 7. Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to bother with that one because that's a moon and nectar, and I'm just simply going to have other things that are a priority there. So Skolakosophy 5 would be Rhyme and Remembrance. Okay. So that's 3 moon and winter. So not the easiest set of tasks for me to do, but what this does give me an excuse to do is just sort of go through my library and see if there's any, just any low-hanging fruit as far as material I might have overlooked. So again, if it comes down to it, I'll use the moon if I have to, but I'm preferably going to find moon and scale works. So Tradiz Mahaira, Grail and Moon. Crossing to Noon, Sea Stories, I believe that is also Grail and Moon. And I'll use them if I have to. I guess the other question I might ask is there something big that I can use? Hard to say. A Tower Falls is something I'm ready to take on. We can get 10. Well, actually, hang on. So Vac will help me out as well. So we try and do a Tower Falls. Technically, that's a 14 text, so I can get 10 from Edicts. You know, if I just do the Curious Hunch, the only thing is that once that's done, it's hard for me to get the Curious Hunch back. Okay, I think I'm going to leave those aside. What about up here? So lots of preliminal meter. The Red Book of Brittany might be interesting because that has some scale to it. Maybe another way of going for this would be to say, what's the largest amount of scale that I can get in one go? Because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different skills that want a whole heck of a lot of scale. Nyx Abelix gives me wolf stories. That's a possibility. The only real catch here is that with Edict Martial and the Tryst, so that'll take us up to 11. Ugh. Yeah, so that's 11 when we need 16. So we're either using an ink or we need to start reading our books with Newman, which maybe it's time to do that, but yeah, Nyx Abelix is a possibility. History of Inks, the only problem is I don't have a very high level rose right now, so that's not really going to count. Enchiridion Tragularis. 14. Well, that's kind of like me being able to read Nyx Abelix, because this doesn't have a language I don't understand. Medusa's Lament. Now that seems a little more realistic. So we do Coil and Chasm. We had a health. Yes, actually, okay, so Medusa's Lament's definitely going on the list. That's a Horns and Ivories. It gives me a... oh, crap, I forgot what the Viennese Conundrum... I think it gives us Fear. Okay, well, just as well, because this thing's run out of space. Do I have another big shelf that I can put this stuff on? Not really. Maybe we swap out storms for a different shelf. I don't really think this is one I want to tackle right now. Okay. So that's one of the big ones. I'm really short on scaly stuff. But I think Medusa's Lament is a reasonable start. And like I said, I do have a lot of moon texts that I can work with. But I think what we'll do, to start off with, we'll take Medusa's Lament, we'll use that to finish off Hill and Hollow and see how far we can get with wolf stories. And then from there, I'll see if I can... Yeah, I don't know. I'll see where we're sitting with the rest of it, but at this point, we probably just want to work on the salon and such. What I'm going to do for tonight... Oh, sorry, there's also the question of what memory do I want to keep. So that's the reason why I did all of this now. If I can keep the fear, great, but I can't. So, in fact, the only memory I can keep is the revelation, so... Oh, no, that's not true. I can keep the storm as well. So I think I'm probably going to wrap up, not exactly here, but I don't think I want to do another day in the game. What I am curious about, though, is whether or not I can host another salon. If I can, I'm going to wait until later in the day. Hey! Delivery from Cater and Hero. Something useful has arrived. Unwrap, unbox, unleash. Actually, if this is Numa, this is a big problem. Oh, that stings. I did not need the blue crown enough to lose a couple health. I'm just going to cool it until I see what the season is. Cool. Okay, so our first task is to restore our health. It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie, with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. We also need to wait a minute to see who's arriving. So I think what I will do here... I'm going to do something a little counterintuitive, so I'm spending all this effort getting the health back, but I'm actually still going to read Medusa's Lament. I guess I need... Well, we do the earth sign, so... we use the health here, coil and chasm, earth sign, and the serpent style glass. So scale unearth, I can master this mystery. Enough scale to match mystery scale. We're also going to spend... So the first part of the day, we're kind of... Like, we have plenty of space. So we're going to wait until later on to host the salon. So speak with Mr. Kill. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. If you don't choose a topic, Mr. Kill will offer help as a friend. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. And again, we need to wait the minute before the... yearly stipend. The yearly stipend from St. Ronwins has arrived, along with the usual, rather sniffy reminder that I should use it wisely. I guess I can take a minute here and feed pleading tuppence. Satisfy this creature's appetite. Food will make a hungry beast or a wild one cooperative. Okay. Oh, sorry. There's the other thing I want to do. I will use my whist to read Wrapped in the King for the Earth sign again. All right. Last but not least, the Cater and Hero order. So we've got all my sugar back. Where do I even want to put this? I was slowly working my way towards freeing up the space, and then I did this nonsense. Okay, this'll do. Definitely needed more milk. I'll remember that for next time. And I dropped the butter. So a large part of the start of the day is actually going to be spent recovering the elements of the soul in prep for the salon. However, the idea of just sitting and waiting for everything doesn't really strike me as an interesting way to spend the day. So I want to be a little cautious on what I'm using. So for instance, the whist I'm okay to give up because there's no situation in which I'm going to need 8 whist in a salon. That just isn't going to happen. So the aim right now is to sort of convert some of this into some of the whist here into some of the health, which I don't recall if you actually need to use it during the salon. But the last thing is that with the current affairs, we don't know who's arriving yet. I believe we've only had one visitor, Morgan. So if we wind up having somebody who is arriving as part of the event... Oh my god, really? Yeah, this is going to take quite a bit of effort. Mind you, we have the money, so... I think summer I might do a small, another small one in the Gulskrai Logia. I feel like I need to invite the Kills again. Maybe kill the Kills, Connie, and Zachary again. This was Serena Blackwood, so I don't need to worry about the invitations. We're still good. So here... In fact, it was particularly foolish of me to invite Mr. Kill because I don't see how I'm going to be using him that much if we're dealing with Serena's questions. But here's what we're going to do. We will spend the money to invite everybody. Or at least we'll start. A full belly makes a helpful friend. This beastie is now inclined to cooperate. And I think this is actually a decent place to stop because we've got a few things in play. So number one, we've got Serena Blackwood on her way. So we'll be able to talk with her about the affair of the unfinished lark. I'm also trying to remember... I still need to remember exactly what I needed to do for these two. So, we can help Serena with the affair of the unfinished lark. We can help, we can renew the remaining elements of the soul. So I count 2 health. I don't know where my other one went, though. I thought I had 4. Anyways, But yeah, I'll try and recover as much of that as I can before the salon, and we're going to need a minute, slightly more than a minute actually, to invite everybody over. And I want to host it later on in the day anyway, because you get an extra, you sort of get an extra memory out of that. The other thing that I may want to do is commit a couple of, I might want to commit a couple of those skills to the Tree of Wisdoms so that I can have the extra elements of the soul to work with for the discussions. But again, I'll leave that as something separate. The one bit of good news, though, is that as far as the replacements are concerned, we've actually already made everything we need for the gathering. So it's really just a matter of filling everybody in place when the time comes. But that's going to be something that happens. Sorry. It's going to be something that happens, I believe, Monday. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out. I'm looking forward to showing off the salon. It's not going to... It will start earlier on in the broadcast, but it's not going to be in the immediate future just because I need... I have my usual warm-up, and I need to get all the characters in the house before I do anything. Now, we don't have too many people online. We actually have both Revive Snow and Kilgore Trout. I think I'm going to host Revived Snow just because I have hosted Kilgore recently. And I haven't seen GTFO, so I'm not quite sure what the deal with that is. But yeah, as far as future plans, so I'm going... tomorrow I'm going to try and get the YouTube episodes recorded as early as I possibly can, just because I really don't want another situation where I'm recording everything the night before. I've been really worn out this week trying to handle all of that. Again, Monday I will try and take care of the... Monday, Wednesday, Friday I'll try and do the normal House of Light streams. We'll do the Salon. We'll carry on with the rest of the goals in terms of leveling up the different skills, different items. And then, I don't know, is there anything else? I guess in a couple weeks we do have Remembrance Day coming up in Canada, so that's November 11th. I will probably have that off for myself. And then later on I am going to be going out of the country, so there will be probably a couple streams missed from that. But once I have a clearer idea in terms of the dates, I can let you know that. Anyways, please enjoy Revive Snow, a camless, mic-less broadcaster from Toronto. They have an interesting stream, and I'm curious to see what they're playing. But I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.